Nidhaya Ridi Vishvesham Vidhaya Guru Vandanam Balanam Sukha Bodhaya Kriyate Tarkasangraha.
Welcome to my new discussion, Definition of Smriti in Tarkasangraha, presented by Feel for Philosophy.
We all have memories. They're what make us who we are, right? They shape everything about us. But have you ever really stopped and asked yourself, what is a memory? Like, what is it really? It feels so intangible, almost like a little bit of magic. Well, what if I told you there's a way to define it with absolute razor-sharp precision? Today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're diving into an ancient philosophical answer to that very question, a concept known in Sanskrit as Smrti. Seriously, do it right now. Just pause and bring a memory to mind. Anything works. What you had for lunch yesterday, a favorite moment from when you were a kid, anything. What is actually happening inside your head when you do that? It feels mysterious, I know. But believe it or not, centuries ago, some brilliant philosophers actually drew up a detailed map to explain this exact process. And today, we're going to follow that map. So, here's our game plan. First, we'll get our bearings with a kind of map of all knowledge, just to see where memory even fits in. Then, we'll zoom right in on the core definition and unpack its secret ingredient, something called a mental impression. After that, we'll see why one tiny little word, the word alone, is the key to the whole thing. And finally, we'll use all of that to figure out the difference between a true memory and a false one. Okay, so to find memory, we first need that map of the mind. In the philosophical system we're looking at today, the whole territory, all of knowledge, is called Buddhi. So let's unfold this map and find the landmark we're looking for. This map starts with a really simple but really powerful split. Basically, all knowledge gets divided into two main types. You've got Anubhava, which is direct experience, what you're seeing and hearing this very second. And then you have Smriti, or remembrance, which is all the knowledge that comes from the past. And that is the path we're going down today. All right, so we've found memory on our map. Now the real investigation begins. And our central clue comes from this incredible ancient text, the Tarkasangraha. It gives us a definition that is so short, so concise, and so powerful that it works like a key to unlock this entire concept.
And here it is. This is that key in the original Sanskrit. Now, it might look a little intimidating, but trust me, within these few words is a complete and beautiful theory of memory. Let's break it down.
And here's the English version. Remembrance is the cognition which is produced from mental impression alone. Okay, I know, it sounds simple, but the real genius here is in the details. Every single word in that sentence is doing some heavy lifting. It's defining not just what a memory is, but just as importantly, what it is not. So, the big question becomes, what on earth is a mental impression? So let's dig into that idea of a mental impression. You can honestly think of it as the source code of our memories. The technical term for it is a samskara. Okay, so a samskara is basically the invisible trace, the residue that an experience leaves behind in your mind. It's not the memory itself. That's the key part. It's the latent potential for a memory. Every single thing you experience creates these little impressions, and they just lie there, dormant, waiting for something to activate them. They are quite literally the raw material of your entire past. Here's the perfect way to think about this. Imagine your memory is a photograph, the final developed picture that you can look at. Well, the samskara, that mental impression, is the old-school film negative. You can't really see the final image just by looking at the negative, but it has all the information needed to create it. No negative, no photo. It's that simple. No samskara, no memory. All right, so we've got our raw material, this mental impression, or samskara. But remember our definition? It said memory is produced from a mental impression alone. This one little word, this is where the real detective work begins. Because this word acts like a filter, helping us isolate what a true memory is from all the other stuff going on in our heads that just looks like memory. So first off, the definition makes it super easy to separate memory from, say, perception. When you recall the image of a jar, that's coming from a past mental impression. But when you are literally looking at a jar right now, that's coming from direct sense contact. Your eyes are seeing the object. One is totally internal, from the past. The other is external, from the present. Simple enough, right? But what about something a little trickier? Yeah, think about it. You see an old friend walking down the street. You recognize them. That process clearly involves memory, doesn't it? I mean, you have to access a past impression of their face to know who they are. So why isn't that pure remembrance, or Smrti, according to our very precise definition? And this is where we see the absolute power of that word alone. See, pure remembrance, Smrti, is caused only by the mental impression. It's you, with your eyes closed, just thinking, I remember that jar. But recognition, well, that's a hybrid event. It's the mental impression plus current sense contact. You are looking at a jar and thinking, this is that jar I saw last week. It's a mashup of the past and the present. So that single word alone, matra in the Sanskrit, it acts like a perfectly built philosophical fence. It carefully ropes off the unique territory of pure memory, that internal recall based only on a past trace, and separates it from everything else like perception and recognition. It's an incredibly elegant and brilliant solution.
And that brings us to our final distinction. What's so cool about this framework is that it's robust enough to even account for something that we all know from experience. The fact that not all of our memories are, accurate. The logic here just follows perfectly. Since a memory is built from a mental impression, its truthfulness depends completely on the truthfulness of the original experience. So if your initial experience was a true, accurate perception of reality, it creates a true impression, which later gives you a true remembrance. But if you originally misperceive something, the classic example of seeing a rope in the dark and thinking it's a snake, that false experience creates a false impression, which can later produce a totally false memory. So, what have we actually found on this little journey? Well, we've seen that a memory, a true Smrti, isn't some perfect video recording of the past. It's a brand new cognition produced alone from a latent trace, a samskara. It's a reconstruction, not a replay. And that, of course, leads us to one final, pretty profound question. If your memory is always one step removed from reality, built only from the leftover traces of things that happened, then how true really is the past that you carry around inside you?
Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support encourages me to create more content. Thank you.